Yo, you're listening to the Money Monopolizers Podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Comunio here, and we are back with episode 8 of the Money Monopolizers Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm real excited, man, mainly because we closed on that house. So I'm glad we got that profit from there. I'm ready to get into our next one over there, and I'm also ready to get this podcast started up. I think we got another good one today. Hopefully, we can get back to the people that's been watching us. How about you, bro?
I was good, bro. I'm doing good, too. You know, that was a good deal that we just closed up on. So glad to have that one in the rearview mirror. And now we looking for the next one. So that's, where all our focus is going to, that and this. So, hopefully before June is over, we'll have the next one. So that's the goal for this month. But yeah, we got a good episode for y'all today. We are talking about the 401k, the trusty investment vehicle of Americans all over the world. It's more specifically, what we're going to be talking about is how your 401k is robbing you. So yeah, I know a lot of people probably shaking in their boots right now because they like, what you talking about? 401k, that's the best thing I'm doing. I'm putting all my money in. I'm investing. That's what's the problem with the 401k? That's what I'm told to do. I'm supposed to put money in my 401k, right? I mean, yeah, that's what everyone tells you to do. That's another societal stigma that, it's all one of those things that's pushed onto people. And a lot of people just do it because they don't know why, because they're, just told to do it and they don't know why they're doing it. So, that's just how it goes. That's how it goes sometimes. But I want to start this podcast off kind of just by talking about what a 401k is and, getting into it from that neutral perspective, like I always try to do every episode. So, because every episode we're providing some sort of subjective, analysis on the topic. So I think it's worthy of providing a good neutral, objective, at least definition in the beginning of what this stuff is before we kind of slander it or give a opinion on it. So. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so what is a 401k? So a 401k is essentially just a retirement account that is made available to employees from employers, right? So you hold back part of your salary and it gets put into a fund you'll get when you retire. So your 401k can either be a traditional 401k or it can be a Roth. Traditional 401k is whenever you essentially are just paying taxes on it when you pull it out. So whenever you retire, you're going to pay taxes on it. With a Roth 401k, you pay taxes on it now. So the traditional is tax deferred and the Roth is tax deferred whenever you pay tax, or you pay the taxes on the Roth now. So yeah, so the employer, they'll usually, the way it works, I mean, most places, not all places, but the employers will usually match your contributions with what they tell you is their own money. So they're telling you that they're going to match it. Whatever you put in there, they're going to match that. So essentially, a lot of people think they're getting 100% return on that, right? We'll get into that. But there's a stigma about the 401k too. A lot of people, the way they think about it is it's literally the only investment vehicle that, I just mentioned the only investment vehicle that many, working people actually know about. And they're just told to put money away into it, and then when you're ready to retire, you'll magically have enough money to live off of. This is like, a lot. There's a thing too. A lot of people don't really even know that it is investing. So for me to say it's the only investment vehicle that many people know about, could be right or wrong, because a lot of people don't even know that you are investing when you're putting money into 401k. To an extent, we'll break it down. We'll break it down a little bit more, a little later. But to an extent, yes, you are investing. Whenever you put money into a 401k, because you essentially are hoping to get a return larger than what you put in by the time you retire, right?
Mm-hmm. So take a step back with this and think about from day one, what are you being taught? You're never taught how to spend, save, or invest your money. That's just a subject that's not taught in schools or at home. So when the first time somebody hears, I need to invest or I want to invest, somebody may automatically tell you, oh, that's risky. That's not something that I want to do because I don't know what it is. I don't know how to do it. I never heard of it before. So that's a natural risk. It's like, I know I gave an example before of a paratrooper. I'm scared. Well, if me going to jump out of an airplane sounds risky, sounds dangerous, sounds like something that I would never do, something I haven't done before. That's how people look at investing. So if somebody tells you I want to invest, they'd be like, somebody automatically tell you a reason that it's bad to invest because something that they might have heard one time about investing. So, but the first time you ever hear about any type of investing is when you go to a W-2 job. And they tell you, okay, we have this plan for you called a 401k that will allow you to have money in your retirement, basically. You're still confused by this because this is the first time you're ever hearing of this, and you have to take in all this brand new information within like a day, and you don't really understand what it is, but you are just basically conformed to what you're being told because this is the first time you're being told anything about investing, about saving money, and they just like, oh man, this is like my savior. Somebody's gonna save my money for me and allow me to be able to live in my retirement. So it sounds really good in the beginning, but little do we know, this is like the real risk as opposed to investing, if you actually know how to invest. Because especially in today's society where people are living longer, living through their retirement, like, so people usually retire around 65. If you live to like 95, you've lived way past what people used to do after they retire. People die pretty young after their retirement, so they might live like 5-10 years maybe. But now with people living way longer, and then another problem is that the inflation is going on, so the value of the dollar is dropping. That money that you save for retirement is no longer able to be used all through your retirement. It's really getting burnt a lot faster, and that's why you see a lot of people now who have retired and they run out of all of their retirement money because of factors like this. So that's why it's so risky to just fall into the trap of, okay, 401k is the only way to go.
Mm-hmm. And it's, before the 401k, people were being conditioned to believe this before even the 401k, just because y'all heard the word pension before. That's what was established before 401k. So a pension is essentially just with the 401k, you're putting money in there, but with the pension, the employer was putting money in there. So they would pretty much promise you that based off of certain characteristics like your age, your tenure, your salary, they'll put like a average amount of a certain amount of years per month. They'll contribute a certain amount of money per month, and whenever you retire, they'll pay you that money. So they still have the money, but they're just going to pay it to you when you retire. So every month you'll just get money from them. So that's, people were still being conditioned even before the 401k became a thing. And the 401k is only, I think this year, it's like 40 years old, 41 years old. So it's fairly new in terms of, talking about money and investing. So, but yeah, people have just been conditioned to, think like, okay, put my money away, and then when I'm old, I'll just live off of a little bit. So it's just kind of having that mentality of like, that's the only way that you can prepare for retirement is if you put money away and then get some, whenever you're old, and just take out some later. But, it's just another byproduct of society's effect on people and the way we view money. And it's crazy because, I just think like people have been conditioned so bad that they'll contribute to this before they even contribute to their own tangible savings account, right? So the median savings account in America has $4,800. So that's the median, right? The average is about 16,000, but you got to know the average considers outliers. So the median is where the majority of people are at. So the median is the middle, right? So that means the majority of people are less than that 16,000, and they're around 4,800. So that's where half people have less than 4,800 and half people have more than 4,800. That's insane. And like thinking of it from that perspective is like, that's why, they penalize you if you do withdraw early from your 401k. This is, the government is thinking like, well, y'all can't really be trusted to save on your own. So if you take out any money out of here that you're gonna have to live on, because they don't want to be paying everybody freaking Medicare. So, they're saying, hey, put this money away. If you take it out, we're gonna cook you with 10%. That's kind of where that has come from. The government, they're trying to protect people from themselves. And the thing about a 401k, it gives people a sense of security and easiness, right? Nothing can happen to my money. I put it in there, and then when I retire, I'll be good to go. It's also because it's also like one of those path of least resistance kind of things. It's easy to just put my money on 401k. I don't have to, do anything. I just put my money in there, and I just when I'm old enough, it'll be I have magically $1 million in there or something like that, and I'll be ready to go. And I don't even have to do nothing. It's just, people like taking the path of least resistance, just, in nature. It's just the way human nature is. So it's not going to differ when it comes to anything else. So, that's just one of those bad stigmas that society has just kind of freaking destroyed people to believe.
The path of least resistance and that security factor that people feel is two big factors in them that cause them to trust what the employers are telling them. So when you hear the employer tell you, okay, we're going to do a 401k plan and it's going to help you out in your retirement, you like, oh yes, it sounds perfect. Like it's that savior that you're talking about, like, oh, I'm going to have like $1 million when I finally retire. It's because you don't know anything about how to handle your finances. So you hear somebody say they're going to handle it for you. It's like, that's exactly what you've been looking for in life.
Yeah.
But people never think to build their financial literacy to actually build themselves up financially as far as their knowledge base. So the sad thing is when people find out that this financial ignorance is not bliss. So I saw an example on a LinkedIn article. They said that people today barely live off of their retirement 10 years into their retirement. So imagine you retire at 65 years old, you live to 75 and you already are out of money. 10 years, so then you live to say 95, like I said earlier. If you live 30 years and you only was able to survive off your retirement for 10, you are in some really financial struggles only 10 years into your retirement. Like you've worked for 40 plus years, and only were able to have this financial comfort for 10 years after that. That's like insane that this is the reality, but people still say that investing is risky. You are at some serious risk of being in some serious trouble if you don't build your financial foundation up as far as your knowledge base and knowing how to utilize your money wisely. And take it a step further, 47% of workers, and this is another stat, 47% of workers have less than $50,000 in their retirement. So break that down into like months. So like I said, we after 10 years, they usually run out. So what do they have to live off of for those 10 years if they only have 50,000?
Are you saying that's 50,000 if they were retired right now? Are you saying when they're done working? Because you said 40% of all workers. Is that current workers that are still saving, or is that when they're done saving? They have less than 50,000.
So I think that was actually a stat for if they had retired today. Most of them, like 47%, would only have 50,000 to use. So this is why people have to work for so long, essentially, because if it were $50,000, you would have to live off of about $400. So if I break this down, so if you only can live for 10 years, I'm using that 10-year example. If you live for 10 years after you retire, or you're only able to live off of your retirement for 10 years, that means that from that 50,000, you have to spend $5,000 a year in order to do that. Yeah. That's the maximum you can do to live 10 years. Break that down monthly. That means you only can spend $416. $400, that may sound like a lot to some people, but in reality, that might get me a couple tanks of gas and a couple trips to the grocery store per month. You can't do anything. You can't take a trip. If I take like one flight round trip to Houston and back from Indiana, that's my $400 for the month right there.
And that's crazy because, and most of the time that's probably not even a Roth. That might just be traditional. So they're getting they're taking $400 and then they still got to get tax off of that. Because I assume that $400 you talking about, you just did that as the gross like divide. You didn't take off taxes for that, did you?
Nope. And that's what most people will do that too.
So
most people are not even going to think about the taxes that are going to be added on to that 50,000.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be taken away from that 50,000.
Exactly. So if you didn't do a Roth IRA.
So who's at the real risk here? Let's just think, stop and think to yourself, who's at the real risk when it comes to somebody who's investing their money in an asset that they understand versus somebody who is relying solely upon a 401k plan by your employer.
Yeah, big facts. Because people always say investing is risky, but not investing is risky, and not a 401k. when I say investing, I'm not talking about 401k. That's garbage. So let's talk about why it is garbage, right? Let's talk about why I personally think that the 401k is a horrible retirement plan, and why anyone that wants to be financially free should not even, me personally, in my opinion, I wouldn't be contributing to my 401k. If I was trying to achieve financial freedom at an early age, which I am, I'm not going to be trying to contribute to a 401k. So let's talk about why that is, though. So for starters, though, I think this is the biggest reason. The thing about the 401k is you have no control over your money. Essentially, what you do when you invest in a 401k is you hand it over and you hope it grows, right? So you hope it magically has enough money for you to live off when you retire. So whenever you do invest into your 401k, what you're pretty much doing is investing in mutual funds. We talked about mutual funds, right? Those are just pools of investors putting together money to invest in stocks or bonds or something. So you're investing in mutual funds that are going to be controlled by brokers, that are controlled by bankers who invest that money into companies controlled by boards. So, and the crazy thing is these boards they can easily be influenced by politics. So you got to think about that. Like, how many degrees removed are you from the actual assets that you're investing in? Think about it. You're investing in mutual funds you're investing mutual funds into brokers that are controlled by bankers that are controlled by boards that are influenced by politics. So literally something 4 degrees away could happen and I could lose money. So it's like, bro, I have no control over what happens. If Donald Trump says some ignorant shit, then my money, I just lost hella money. So it's like, you just got to think of it from that perspective. And this is the main reason why I don't contribute to my 401k, right? The thing about it is control. I said it in an earlier episode, but I know I can't, if I want to be financially free by age 28, I know I can't be contributing to a retirement account that is employing people until they're 65. What kind of sense does that make? What is that going to leave me? That's going to leave me employed till I'm 65. I know I can achieve a better return with that money off of my 401k than that company that is employing people until they're 65 can achieve that return, right? They might be able to, get a great return, but I know I can get a better one because I know I can control it, right? It's just, it's just a matter of trusting yourself and knowing what you know and knowing, having confidence and faith in what you understand and that you know what you're doing with that money, right? So
just to add to that, though, I want people to understand that, yes, he can do it because he has the financial literacy to invest in assets he understands. So, yes, now he can take that money out and not invest it in a 401k because he knows that with the knowledge base that he has, he can go invest that money in maybe real estate, something that he actually has studied. He understands how it works. He understands how to make a good profit and a good return on it. That allows him to make much more profit than what a 401k would make him.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, it's to each their own, but I know for me, that's what I'm trying to do. So my goals and my path has to look different than someone else that is just okay with retiring at 65. So I can't be, putting money into this savings account. That's the primary reason. Another reason that the 401k I think is garbage is because you can't access it early without a penalty, right? So the law is if you take any money out before the age of 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty on that. Plus you're going to pay taxes on it. So whatever you take out, it's going to be 10% plus the taxes on that amount. So, that kind of is just like a ridiculous thing. Like, man, that's my own money and I can't take it out. But that's what I say. The government don't trust people. Honestly, I don't even blame them. because I know most people they probably. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but people taking it out, you don't know what they're trying to do with it, be doing something dumb with it or whatever the case. It's just kind of from their standpoint. All right, we need to make sure people don't take this out because we don't want to have an entire generation of people on Medicare in 40 years because they was all messing with their 401k. So think of it from that perspective. Another reason that it's pretty, terrible is because of market volatility. So if the market were to, crash or something, and you got a lot of money in your 401k or something, you might not lose it all, but look, you're gonna be SOL because you're gonna lose some of it, and you SOL because there's no insurance on your 401k. You can't get no insurance on that. So whatever you lose, I mean, that the effect that you feel is gonna be based on the mutual funds that your employer choose to go with. So again, even in that sense, you don't even control how much money you're gonna lose if something were to happen. So there's no control there again. And, that's just one of the worst things about that. Like, man, just you're so far removed from it that you don't really have any say in what happens. Something happens. I know at least with real estate or something, then, I can kind of protect myself in some way by, just leaving money in a property or something, and I still have that equity or something there. But if it's this out there, then, I don't really have control over what's going to happen to that. So, and, another personal thing for me tied to, market volatility is, I mean, for me, I want to be able to capitalize on a down market. So when the market is down and there's a market crash or correction or something, I don't want to have all my money tied up in a 401k. I need to make sure I have some money available so I can go buy some of them properties that are, getting sold at 30 cents on the dollar. Because now I have that money to go buy it. But if all my money's in the 401k and I try to pull it out, they're gonna hit me with. So let's say I want to buy a $60,000 property that came on the market because the market crashed, and I want to pull money in my 401k. They're gonna hit me with 10% of that penalty. So I'm gonna pay $6,000 just to pull out my own $60,000. So it's like, bro, I can't risk doing that. So I need to have all my money with me, and that's just my personal perspective on that.
So that was funny, that last little comment you made, because that's thinking like an investor. So what he was saying is that in a down market, and I want to explain down market first. Most people, so like when the market crashes, that's what a down market is. That means that the economy is in a bad position, housing prices are down, and that means that you're probably underwater on your property, meaning that you probably owe more on the property than what it's worth. So in a down market, people are in like distress. People are in sad times and bad situations. Alex, on the other hand, is saying, as an investor, he wants to have capital. He wants to have money so he can go invest in these houses, he said, for pennies on the dollar. So like in his case, he said 30 cents on the dollar. So let's look at an example of that. Imagine that a house is normally worth $100,000. But in a down market, the value of the properties go down. So now it's worth only $30,000. So now he can buy this house at $30,000 if he has the money available. Now, if he invested in his 401k, he doesn't have that money because it's being tied up in a 401k and he can't access it without paying a penalty. So back to the example, if he pays $30,000 for the home, fixes it up, rents it out, and waits for the market to come back up, now all of a sudden it's back to that 100,000. It's not going to stay down forever. Like back in 07, 08, the market crashed. It was really bad, but it came right back up after like 3, 4, 5 years. So it's back up and thriving now, especially. And prices are probably nearly double what they used to be. So you made that same property that used to be worth 100,000 might now be worth 150 to 200,000. So with that being said, he bought let's not forget, he bought the property for $30,000. If the property is now worth 150 to 200,000, he has made over $100,000 in equity just by buying at a good time. Yeah. By buying when the market is down. When most people are scared, that's where investors see opportunity. So just understand, like, that's market cycles though. So right now the market is really good. So there's a lot of money. People are very much willing to give out money any which way you look. That's investors, that's lenders, that's partners, whatever. There's money all around, but the deals are not as good as that, because right now you ain't gonna find a deal for 30,000 that's really worth 100,000. That's not gonna happen. It's very hard to find that. But in down markets, there's a lot of deals, but the money isn't there. People are scared to lend out that same money because they feel it's just that stigma of a down market. People don't like to give out money in a down market. It's like, it's just much harder to find good interest rates. It's hard to find money in general. So just understand his perspective when he says that he wants to have money in a down market. That's all I was getting at.
Yeah, and because you mentioned talking about when people are scared, investors see opportunity. It reminds me of a quote or something that I always hear. I don't know who says it, but it kind of, I don't know. I think it's more of a rule of thumb kind of thing. But they always say, when everyone's buying is when you should be cautious, and then when everyone is cautious is when you should be aggressive. So
that's definitely true. Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's just kind of how I think of it. So that's kind of, that's the biggest thing about, the 401k and why I think it is so trash. It's because of the control factor, right? That control factor is so important. But another reason, and I think this is almost just as important in the sense of, like, even if you don't want to invest, you need to be aware of this. And that is, I always hear people say that when they invest in their 401k, well, my employer, they're going to match my contribution, right? That's 100% return. Free money, right? What can't go wrong with that? 100% return.
Sounds
and
good.
Yeah, sounds good. That's great if they weren't matching you with money that's already yours. So the money, okay, that's probably like, people are like, what are you talking about? So let me explain that. When I say it's your money to begin with, I want you to think of it like this. So let's say they weren't going to offer you that 401k, right? Let's say that it was a company and they weren't offering a 401k. What they know that if they aren't offering you that 401k, they have to increase your salary now in order to keep your compensation competitive with other companies, right? That are offering a 401k. Because you got to think of it from the sense of, like, what is your total compensation? So you're getting your salary and then you're getting your 401k. If there's a company that's offering you a 401k and there's a company that's not offering you a 401k, but they pay the same base salary, you're going to go to the company that's offering you the 401k, right? So you think of it from that perspective. So whenever I say that, because I know I can, there's proof of this there was a study that was actually done by the Center for Retirement Research. And they compared employees that were contributing to their 401ks at companies that offered 401ks. And then they looked at employees that weren't, or that were at companies that didn't offer 401ks. And they compared their salaries, and they saw that companies that offered 401ks typically paid less salary for the same position than the company that didn't offer the 401k, right? So, and usually the dip in salary was equal to the amount of the potential contribution by the employer. So this is essentially saying that if they offer you a 401k, they can decrease your salary, and then they'll tell you that they'll match what you contribute, right? Which is what you should already be getting. So in a sense, in reality, when you invest in your 401k, you're simply getting what's owed to you by your employer. And you got to really think about that in the sense of, like, if they don't offer you that money, then if they don't offer you the benefit to contribute to a 401k, then they have to pay you more salary. Just because, who's going to just go to a company that, if, like I said earlier, if the base salaries are the same and one is offering a 401k, you're going to go to the one with the 401k. So if one isn't offering you a 401k, they have to increase your salary. So the money that they're just matching you with is already the money that they should be paying you. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of like, you just got to think of it outside the box from that perspective, right?
That's a really good. I really want people to understand what he's saying here. So I want to put that into an example. So all things being equal, remember that. All things being equal, say an employer is going to offer you two different deals. The first one is, I'll offer you $100 with no 401k contributions. Or I'll offer you $90 and you need to put down $10. So that's $10 put into your 401k. So now you have 80 to spend. You have $10 invested, and he's going to match that $10. So with that, essentially you're getting the same thing. You're gonna get $100 at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you either get $100 right now, or 100, or they give you 90. You put away 10, they'll match you with another 10. That's essentially what he's describing right here. The problem is they don't give you those two options typically. Like it'll be one employer will give you that. One employer will give you the $100. Another employer will do what I just described, the $90, and then you invest. You put away $10, and then they match it with 10. In Alice's case, this is what I mean why they don't do that. They're either going to offer you the $90 and say I'll match it, or they're going to you can say no, and they're not going to offer you more. They're not going to give you that full 100 just straight out. They rather just you be like, oh well. You ain't want the match. That's on you. That's the benefit that we give, and since you don't want it, we'll just keep it. So now he's essentially Alex isn't getting all of his money anymore, but he's looking at it as opportunity cost. He can get more money now, so he can invest it versus getting less money because he's contributing to a 401k that he won't be able to see for another 45 years.
Yeah.
So if he uses that money now to invest, he can scale exponentially beyond what the 401k can get him because he knows how to invest in assets he understands. Yeah. And that's the point he's trying to get here with this whole understanding the matching the thing with 401k.
Exactly. And the thing, that's why I said whenever I don't contribute to my 401k, it's because I know I can get a better return than the company that's employing people until they're 65. Because they're just getting mediocre returns. Very mediocre. I can guarantee you're not getting nothing great. Because you gotta think of it from the perspective. You can't think like an employee. You have to think like an employer, right? So the employer knows that the 401k is good for them, right? Because they know that they don't have to pay, like Marlon was saying, they don't have to pay unless the employee opts in. So they can give you less salary and no match. So, and then they're like, well, that's cool with me. I mean, shoot, he don't want to contribute. He don't want to contribute. We're not going to give him more money, and we don't have to match. So, but look, that's just, go ahead.
So it may feel like a win for the employer, but if you are smart financially, it's also a win for you. Just think about it that way. Just think like an employer.
Exactly. I can guarantee you I'm getting a better return than, a lot of people at work, but I'm not going to get into that. Someone might be listening. But that's okay. So we talked about no control, and we talked about the thing about the matching and how they're just matching the money that's already yours. So those are the top two factors on why the 401k is bad, right? So now another thing I want to mention too with it, another factor I guess is being aware that there's a cap. If this is because you got to think, if this is your only way of investing, you got to know everything there is to know about it if you're going to be a smart investor. So with the 401k, if that's your only way of investing, then you have to know that there's a cap on how much you can invest in. So for 2019, they just raised it. I think they raise it a little bit every year, probably because of inflation and stuff. But this year, I think it's like $19,000. So that's the max that you can contribute to a 401k in any given year. So that being said, I mean, just think of it, because I saw a couple years ago when Steph Curry signed his new contract. I think it was 2017 in that summer. It was like a $200 million contract with the Warriors, and they were like breaking it down, his net pay. He would be getting like 33 million gross, and he would be getting about 15 million net after those ridiculous California taxes and all that, and then maxing out his 401k contribution. I'm not sure if he really does that, but that's how they broke it down. And back then, 2 years ago, it was like 18,000 was the max. So that's pretty much saying if I want to invest in anything, the most I can, if that's my only way of investing, the most I can invest is $18,000 in a year. That's insane, because I'm thinking from my perspective, if I want to achieve financial freedom, I got to invest more than $18,000 in a year. That ain't going to get me nowhere. That might get me financial freedom in 20 years, but not in 5.
Especially if you have 15 million that you can invest with. So why can't I invest $1 million to get a bet. Because if you get a return of 5%, I can get a 5% return on $1 million or a 5% return on 19,000. What's going to yield the better return?
Yep, exactly. So you just got to be aware of that going whenever you are just mindlessly putting money into your 401k and, just not thinking about it. Please don't be doing that. Another, important thing to know about the 401k and why it is garbage is because of the fees that cut into your earnings. So whenever you invest in your 401k, you're, like I was saying earlier, investing in mutual funds controlled by brokers that are controlled by banks, right? And the banks are investing the money. So with the banks, there's fees that they're taking off the top of your money, and you don't really notice. You're gonna probably see it at the back end, probably all the way later down the line when you start to withdraw money. But there's legal fees, transaction fees, and like bookkeeping fees and stuff. It's the same thing when you do a real estate transaction, like closing on a real estate deal. You pay hella fees. I don't even know where to be going, but it's the same thing. And when you're doing a 401k, because you got to understand, if you're investing in stocks, you're paying fees too. And a 401k is just investing in mutual funds, which is investing in stocks. So those same fees are still being applied. So the thing about it though is like thinking of it from another perspective. So if I'm investing in a 401k, I'm putting up 100% of the capital, right? I'm the only one that's putting in the money if I'm investing in 401k. So that means I'm taking 100% of the risk also. But meanwhile, I'm only getting 30% of the return. That's an arbitrary number, but just for conversation's sake, I'm not getting 100% of the return. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. So if I'm putting 100% of the capital and taking all the risk, why should I not be getting all the return? That's crazy to think about, right? So the brokers, they're taking, percents off a certain percentage, and they're saying, all right, you give us the money, you'll take the risk. If something happens, you lose the money, we'll just collecting the fees. So they're still, even if you lose money, they're still collecting those fees. Actually, listen to what Robert Kiyosaki had said about this.
Robert always says how Wall Street rips you off, right? And so I wanted you to go to see if you could explain how exactly Wall Street rips you off, maybe behind the
that's easy.
Yeah, the 401k.
That's not complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say they rip you off. They just provide a service.
Yeah, the most important
for uneducated people.
I think the most important words for anyone on Wall Street is this term: assets under management. In other words, their money, they almost treat it like it's their money. And whether it goes up, down, sideways, earns or loses, they're going to collect something called fees.
So every month you're sending your money to a 401k account.
Yeah.
You may not make money, but they make money on fees. Right?
Every time. And when you think about it, it's really good for them. When you talk about the other side of the coin, Alex, how much of their money have they put in?
Nothing.
None.
Yeah.
How much risk are they taking?
Nothing.
But what's their return? Well, it's infinite because there's none of their money in the deal. So they're investors. They're doing it the way, they're the I quadrant people. And so there's winners and there's losers, and you get to decide what side of that coin you want to be on.
So, listen, this dude is pretty much telling you, these brokers and the bankers, they're getting infinite returns off of your money. You're the one taking all the risk. So whatever happens, you can lose money, but they set. You're like, well, we still good to go. So you really aren't the investor at all with a 401k. That's what I was mentioning earlier when I said, people think of investing when they think of their 401k as investing. But, if you really look at it, you're not really the investor. You're just more of like, if you want to think of it in a real estate sense, you're more of a tenant, and you're paying your owner, the bankers, and they collect the cash flow. So there's not really much risk for them or anything. They're getting infinite returns off of your own money. You're the guy that, people feast off of when it comes to investing. So
understand what he's trying to say right here. He's saying that essentially you're paying somebody else to do your investing for you. It sounds good initially because I don't have to have the technical know-how to do it. I don't have to study or anything. I just pay somebody else to do my investing. The problem is it's not yielding you the best return you can get on your money, but most people won't look into it enough to figure out there's better investment vehicles. Number two, in the case where he said you're only getting 30% of the profit, so you pay the banks essentially because you 5 degrees into it or whatever, like he was mentioning earlier. The banks are essentially taking the fees out before they go invest your money. And then they don't even care now. They got their money from the fees that you paid them. So if you get a 3% return on the money that they invested in those stocks and those mutual funds, they'd be like, oh well, hey, we got our money. He got 3%. He thought it might have been more, it might have been less. You may have got negative percent. Like you might have lost money. They don't care. They got their money before they even put your money out there to invest with. So that's why he's trying to explain that don't try to depend on somebody else to invest your money. It's important that you understand what's going on. You build the financial background to be able to invest your money your own self. So that put into an investment vehicle that you understand, that you've studied, stuff like that. So that way, in 10 years into your retirement, you don't end up screwed over because you only have $50,000 to live off of for 10 years or 10 years plus.
Mm-hmm. And now, see, all that goes back to talking about control. It all ties back into control. So 401k gives you no control at all. The 401k, the bread and butter investment vehicle of working Americans everywhere. By the way, that's not meant to be interpreted with endearment. But anyways, for most, they don't even know what's happening to their money when they hand it over to their employer to contribute to this magic account every other week. For real, think about it. If you are currently contributing to your 401k, have you thought about what's happening to that money? Because if not, you might as well be playing Russian roulette with your bread. It's no different than if a random stockbroker told you to give them part of your paycheck and let them invest it in a stock of their choosing. In both scenarios, you're in the dark. You have no idea where your money's ending up. And let's keep it real. The only reason you probably are contributing to your 401k is because that's what society has deemed not only as acceptable, but also responsible. If society deemed working until you die as normal, then that's what people would do. But lucky for the 401kers out there, it's only normal to work until you're 65. Did you catch the mockery in my voice there? And look, it might sound like I'm patronizing people who invest in 401ks, but I'm not. I'm ragging on the 401k itself. And to be completely honest, I get why you do if you do contribute to your 401k. If you don't have the financial intelligence to invest in anything else, then hey, this your best bet, player. In order to achieve better returns than your 401k, you need to know how to achieve them. Obviously, right? This is why the 401k being forced on most people is acceptable. Because they don't know what else they do with the extra money besides spend it or maybe save it. Again, see why the government penalizes for early withdrawals? And speaking of withdrawals, please don't go withdraw money out your 401k or stop contributing unless you have a plan to achieve a better ROI on the money. So with that being said, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, well, I don't have financial intelligence when it comes to investing, so I'll continue with the 401k. Just know two things. One, the intelligence part is the largest factor you can control with investing. So you can change that simply by educating yourself. And two, lucky for you, you're in the right place to change that if you're already listening to this. So all that being said, I think it's worthy to ask the question then. So why are 401ks still around, right? And I think honestly the answer to that question is because most people who invest in 401ks, they don't have much financial intelligence when it comes to investing. So they don't mind giving their money away, even if it can be put to a better use. So you got to understand if people were to stop investing for their 401ks, Wall Street will go crazy. These, banks are going to go crazy. They're going to be very upset. They're going to riot. So, I mean, people had the power to stop that, but people aren't going to stop investing in their 401ks because that's all they know. They don't know that they're actually being robbed. So, I mean, you're listening to all these people telling you invest in your 401k, you need it for retirement. But honestly, you need to be, wary and cognizant of who you're listening to. You get to be able to pick your mentors wisely. Talked about that in an earlier episode too. If you're listening to Dave Ramsey, he's probably telling you, hey, put more in your 401k, whatever. Do this. I guarantee you he's telling you to invest in your 401k or some sort of, low control investment vehicle. But if you're listening to Robert Kiyosaki, he's going to say he hates the 401k. He's not going to tell you, to invest in a 401k. But, with all that being said, I think if you don't have the financial intelligence to do otherwise, stick to the 401k. Because if you don't want to invest in a 401k, you have to have the financial education to invest in assets that you understand. So you can't just be, So you can't say I'm gonna stop investing in my 401k. Well, what you gonna do then? You might as well. If you don't know anything else to invest in, you might as well invest in your 401k. And honestly, that's why I invest in my own business, and that's why I buy real estate. It's because I have control, and I know I understand it, and I know I can get better returns than the 401k can give. So, control is the most important factor for me when it comes to investing, because I know that generally speaking, the more control you have, the higher potential return you can get. The less control you have, the less potential for return you're going to get. So you just got to be thinking of it from that perspective.
So that's all good, very good points. So I do want to say one more thing to what you were saying about should you invest in a 401k or not. So we're not telling you not to invest in a 401k, because for most people, like you said, that's all that they know. And even if it's a mediocre return and you still aren't able to live within to like 30 years after you retire, at least you got something at the end of the day. Because most people, if they don't invest in anything, they don't have the financial know-how to save or invest at all. Yeah. So naturally, what people do with their money, if they have money, if they see money, they spend it immediately. It don't matter how much it is. I've heard situations where if somebody got $3 million, they're gonna buy a plane. Bro, you don't have a pilot, you don't have fuel, I don't know where you're gonna land. You don't have a hangar for it. Man, you need, people just magically, that income creep is so real when people get a lot of money, because people automatically think when they have a lot of money, they need to spend more money naturally. So that's why for most people, 401k is very good, because otherwise they would have $0 in the bank when they are 65 and ready to retire. And so I do want to say another thing with investing, though, like if you choose not to invest in a 401k, it's important to understand that higher returns on your money, meaning you need to have higher financial intelligence along with it, because that garners greater risk if you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know what's going on. So like with real estate, you need to know the market. You need to know what deals are good and what deals are bad. You can't just put money into any property and expect to get a return on it. So that's why we get offered money so often now, because we're closing, me and Alex, we close on a few deals now. We've done a few deals, have a little bit of history and experience under our belts. Now people are offering us money more frequently. But we try to tell these people it's important to understand that you need to understand what's going on.
He's talking about people to partner with, right? You're not talking
about
banks. Yeah.
So I'm not talking about banks. I'm talking about people that see us, like our peers, or people that see us maybe at church or something. They say, "Oh, I see what you're doing. Looks good. I have money. I want to invest." It sounds good at first, but you don't understand anything what's going on. So it's essentially you're trying to do exactly what the 401k is. You're trying to put money somewhere and hope to get a return on it. You need to think differently, because you need to have the technical know-how of what's going on. Like, just at least understand the process. You can't just expect somebody to, you don't give somebody your money and expect to get a return on it, but not understand what's going on behind it. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. We're trying to explain is to
the 401k.
Exactly. Like that, we're trying to get away from that mindset. Learn of different investment vehicles so you have an understanding. You can actually contribute, like with your own knowledge. We still don't know everything. We can still make mistakes. We have made mistakes. And I want y'all to understand, we don't want you to entrust us with your money and you not know anything what's going on. Because the last thing we want to do is lose somebody else's money. That'd be devastating to us. So we want you to at least understand what's going on. So that's all we're trying to get to you.
I hope you understand what we're trying to convey here. We're not saying don't invest in your 401k. We're saying you need to know what's happening with that money when you do contribute, then decide if you're okay with the returns you're getting or if you want to take another route. It's okay to make that decision, but it's never okay to make uninformed decisions. That's all we're trying to explain to y'all. In order to do better, you gotta know better. So if you do decide that you'd rather invest with another vehicle besides the 401k, then just know that you gotta have high financial intelligence to do so successfully. A wise man once said, "If you gave me 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend the first 2 hours sharpening the axe." Yo, the episode got cut short this week, so that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers Podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. If you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. Trying to see more of them ratings. Come on, y'all. You can find out more info about us on Twitter at The Monopolizers or on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so check that out and share those posts. But until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers Podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.